welcome to another episode of The Full Flute. I've got a very special guest here today, my great Aunty Eunice, who's come up from Sydney for a family function. And I've decided to talk to her today a little bit about champagne and what she remembers growing up. And the reason I'd like to talk to Aunty Eunice is because she's probably my very favourite widow in Australia. And as we know and we've spoken about before, there's a lot of really great widows in Champagne, and we're drinking one of them today. So welcome, Aunty Eunice.
Well, thank you, Aunty.
And so you were telling me the other day that you didn't drink a lot of champagne growing as a young adult in Australia.
No, it was a big no-no.
Yeah?
You know, and we like to have a little glass of sherry, but that would be all.
And was that because you just didn't see champagne in the shops, or was it that ladies didn't drink alcohol? Or?
No, I think it was probably because maybe it was expensive.
Expensive?
Yeah, so people just didn't buy it. If you had a lot of money, but our family was kind of just middle class, so we just had sherry and things at Christmas.
Okay. And would you say maybe in the last 10 years or so you've had more, seen a lot more champagne around?
Probably in the last 20, 30 years.
20, 30 years, yeah. Seen it more in the shop.
More, drank it more, yes.
Drank more, yeah. And do you like it?
I do. I love the bubbles.
Yes. They're very magical, aren't they? Did you know that in the history of Champagne, there are a lot of widows that make up I like to say the tapestry of the history of Champagne because of the work they've done after their husbands have died?
Oh, I didn't.
Well, you probably know this one, this Champagne.
Yes.
Veuve Clicquot.
That's what we're drinking
and that's what we're drinking at the moment. And it's probably one of the most recognisable ones here in Australia. And Veuve in French actually means widow.
Oh.
So I know in Australia we tend to say, oh, I'd like a glass of Veuve, but there are a lot of champagnes called Veuve something or other.
Yeah.
So it's not only Veuve Clicquot. Veuve Clicquot was a great lady. Her name was Nicole, actually. Nicole Barbe, like Barbara, but just Barbe. And when she became a widow, she had a young daughter, and she had to take over the business because her husband had passed away. And she actually was quite innovative, and she made some new techniques that they hadn't used before. So she invented this thing called a riddling table, and riddling is the method where they get all of the impurities down into the neck of the champagne, and so that then they have to take it out afterwards, but it leaves the champagne nice and clear. And they used to stick the bottles in sand neck up, which is kind of backbreaking if you imagine all the bottles have to go down in sand. And she invented this table with holes in it that had the necks of the bottles in, so you didn't have to bend down as much. And that has now become the triangular riddling racks we see. So, and
how long ago was all this written?
1800s, late 1800s.
And she took over the business.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And then Louise Pommery. So have you heard of Pommery Champagne?
Oh, yes.
So Louise Pommery was also a young widow with a young child. She had a 1-year-old, I think, or very young child when her husband passed away. And at that time, champagne was a very, very sweet drink, and it was like a dessert wine, and they didn't drink it as much. And she started to make champagne that had a lot less sugar in it. That's become the brut champagne that we drink now, much closer to what we drink now, thanks to another woman.
Oh, yeah,
toast to the women and the widows, yeah.
Widows.
And then there's, who else was there? There was Veuve Roederer. Have you heard of the Crystal Champagne? That's a very famous one that was made for the Tsar in Russia.
No, I don't think of it.
Roederer. So his widow, Camille, she was left with a champagne house after war, and her husband had died, that was going nowhere, and she just through her she was a socialite, and she got it into the American market and turned the whole business around by selling it to socialites and movie stars and completely turning the business around. That's another big name. And then the last one of my favourites is Madame Bollinger, Lady
Bollinger, yes.
So she's more recent. She's this 1900s now. And her husband died, and she had to take over the business. But so during the war in Bollinger, they used to grow grapes up on a stick. Instead of the trellises that you see the vines along now, they used to be on sticks. It was back-breaking work, bending down and tending to the grapes. And so the women in Bollinger during, I think they initiated it, started planting the grapes and having these horizontal trellis lines going along and training the vines along there that's now adopted to this day.
Well, women had a lot to do with developing the champagne over the years, hasn't it?
Yeah.
It's amazing in those days women were kind of, ignored.
Yeah.
So it's amazing.
It's amazing, and such a big business.
Yes.
And very innovative.
Oh, yes.
And very practical. And you're also one of the most practical people I know too. If there's ever a problem, we aren't Aunty Eunice, she'll find the answer. So you tick all the boxes as far as widows go, and champagne. So I think we need to give a toast to you and to all the other widows.
Thank you.
And thank you
very
for
much.
joining my show.
And thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.